On3 has put out its SEC power rankings. Do these match the FPI? Well, not exactly. Not exactly. Alabama at the top of the list, no surprise there. They say the Crimson Tide should be has. It says have. Crimson Tide has arguably the two best players in the country in Bryce Young and Will Anderson, and they have the motivation to go with their excellent leadership. Okay, whatever. Georgia, number 2, with so many key players on defense departing, the Bulldogs will probably have to be a little more explosive offensively than they were a year ago. This is where Kirby Smart's elite recruiting kicks in. Stetson Bennett will have the luxury of working behind a very good offensive line. Shocker. While the Bulldogs are set to plug in a ridiculous amount of star talent to fill in for the departures on defense. Did anybody edit this? Jeez. It's not that hard to put together complete sentences where subjects and verbs agree.
Well, I disagree with the list, so.
Number 3, Texas A&M.
Tell me why. And the thing is, in this, they reference recruiting. All those guys are freshmen. The best recruiting class in the country are all freshmen. You don't know what they're capable of in college, and you don't know who's playing quarterback for them on an 8-4 football team that lost pieces. It's not like it's Kentucky where they get basically everybody back. It's a team that wasn't very good last year, that lost pieces, and you don't know who's playing quarterback.
You can play freshman and win in basketball. You can play a Fab Five, but you cannot do it in football. You just can't.
You can have contributors that are freshmen, but you can't rely on freshmen to be
you can't rely on them. And then if one of my questions about your team is who's your starting quarterback and your answer is I don't know yet, I'm not down with you in the preseason. I'm just not.
Arkansas at number 4
Much better
in
choice.
These power rankings. They write the Razorbacks are set to pick up where they left off in 2021 with Sam Pittman's squad featuring star quarterback K.J. Jefferson working behind a veteran, beefy offensive line. Razorbacks should have an excellent run game. Well, I mean, if you got a running back named Rocket, then you got a chance. If the defensive front emerges, watch out because Arkansas should be pretty solid in the back end. That's a pretty big if in the Southeastern Conference.
It is.
It's a big if, and this is kind of a hodgepodge of teams here. Although I think Florida's too high, and Kentucky's being criminally underrated going into this season.
I got one more problem with putting Arkansas at 4, and at least not referencing in your write-up about them that they've got to replace Treylon Burks. He was a one-man take-over-the-game wrecking crew in the passing game a year ago. And the thing that K.J. Jefferson does best is throw the deep ball. I got to see some development from K.J. Jefferson in the intermediate passing game.
It was
he
quite
takes that
bad
step,
last year.
He's good. But in that portion of the pitch and catch, not so much. Number 5, Tennessee.
Cool with that, honestly. Again, I think it's a hodgepodge of teams
the range
here.
for them. Yeah.
Number 6, Florida.
Yeah, explain that to me. The write-up doesn't just explain that to me.
No chance.
Anthony Richardson has superstar potential but has struggled to stay healthy. The ground game should be good with a deep stable of running backs behind a veteran offensive line. There are potential issues defensively, especially on the interior of the line. Again, a problem in an SEC. Depth is thin in a few spots. That's a recipe for being the 6th best team in the league.
Yeah. And, I mean, I like his ability, but Anthony Richardson didn't just struggle to stay healthy. He struggled to play quarterback well. Young guy, all that stuff. Things can improve, but...
He can do a standing backflip in the parking lot.
Yeah. But
it's true.
Let's not pretend that he did anything other than just show potential and not play well often.
Yeah. Kentucky at 7, and it's not that I have an issue with Kentucky at 7. I do think I have an issue with Kentucky at 4th in the East.
Yeah. No,
7 may be about right for Kentucky in the overall pecking order, but I don't think they're behind Florida and Tennessee and Georgia in the East.
No. Totally agree with you there. And Kentucky should be fourth, in my opinion, overall. I would have them fourth. They would be behind Bama, Georgia, Arkansas.
Kentucky's going to be good in the running game. Chris Rodriguez Jr. No. That wasn't a shush. That's where I'm headed next. That was like let me pull this back just for a second. Kentucky should be good in the running game with Chris Rodriguez Jr. if he stays healthy. But similar to the point that I made about Arkansas losing Treylon Burks, they write here, replacing Wan'Dale Robinson will be key. Wan'Dale Robinson was a beast last year. That's like saying 2 years ago, going into this past season for Ole Miss, replacing Elijah Moore will be key. Yeah. You don't do it.
Yeah.
Not with one guy. Ole Miss at 8. The Rebels were firing on all cylinders last year, but they have to replace a ton. The transfer portal, though, was extremely kind. Chemistry will be worth watching. Agreed. Especially if the Rebels hope to move up the SEC power rankings. Jackson Dart likely keys the offense at quarterback and has a quality line to work behind. The front seven defensively is deep and talented.
Yeah, I had a friend text me about this, and he was like, how could Ole Miss be at 8? They're way better than that, and they're going to be way better than that. And I think it's possible. But there's a lot of if with this team. There just is. If Jackson Dart takes a step forward with a better quarterback coach in Lane Kiffin. If the transfer guys, who are wildly talented, learn the offense and acclimate well. If Chris Partridge can command what is an experienced and talented defense, which is weird to say about Ole Miss, but Ole Miss returns a bunch of really good players on defense. Weird to say. But all offseason going into the season, Ole Miss is going to be in that kind of spot where it's like, I don't know, on paper, they're super talented, but you haven't seen them play together yet, and you don't know who's going to be throwing the football to them for the most part.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, Ole Miss probably
high ceiling, low floor, in my opinion. I mean, when I say low, they're not going 3-9 or anything like that, but if the transfers don't mesh and neither quarterback plays well, could be a push to get to 6-6.
I was going to say, I feel like the floor is 6.
The schedule,
that's the floor.
Sets up, so.
But I mean, when you go from 10 to 6, I mean that's not great. It's not what you want.
It's a big drop,
especially when you have the talent to win more.
I've got another thought about Ole Miss. I had one more thought on Ole Miss. Like, this is just super high level, right? Ole Miss is going to take a step back at quarterback. They may be really good at quarterback when it's all said and done, but I think they're probably taking a step back from where they were last year. That's not like some crazy thin limb I'm going out on. Hope I'm wrong, but probably won't be. I think they will be as good, if not a little bit better, at running back. And you got to think about the running back room as a whole, right? Because they had good guys, and they had guys that could get it in the end zone inside the 5-yard line.
Zach Evans, if he remains healthy and plays all year, is more talented than anybody they had last year, and I don't think it's particularly close.
They are going to be better at tight end. Michael Trigg's a freak. And I think they're going to be better than the offensive line. So that's the offensive side. My question on the offensive side, even more than quarterback, is wide receiver. Because Ole Miss struggled in the passing game in the second half of the season when injuries just really took their toll. Can they be healthy, and can they be a little more explosive in the passing game? We'll see. Or can the running game make up for maybe it taking some time, whether it's Altmaier or Dart at quarterback? Defensively, they're going to be pretty good.
And Purdy might be underselling it.
Sam Williams is a loss. There's no way to spin that other than he's going to be a loss because he had the single most prolific sack season in Ole Miss's history last year. Huge opportunity for Cedric Johnson. I mean, this is like he's playing for money this year. And I don't mean NIL money. I know about Cedric Johnson is playing for NFL money. Now's the time to start putting it on tape because there's the capability is there.
Yep.
Pretty good in the back end. Added some nice pieces. Otis Reese, don't feel like anybody's talking about him in the offseason. He's a veteran now. Big-time playmaker. So we'll see. special teams are a concern. Ole Miss was good in the kicking game, and then their kicker decided that he wanted to have a beach body.
Don't we all?
Some more than others. The commitment for some to get to that point is more stringent for some than others.
They did get that
no question.
Another portal guy. I forget from where, though. They portaled a kicker.
Is it?
What?
Georgia State, right? I think.
Okay.
Anyway, they
we'll
beamed one up, Scotty.
Yeah. So there's your high-level view of Ole Miss. Mississippi State at number 9 on this on-3 power rankings list in the SEC. Of the teams in the middle of the league, the Bulldogs might have the best blend of experience returning on both sides of the ball. Quarterback Will Rogers is back, along with his top 2 backs and a bunch of quality receiving options. Almost the entire front 7 defensively returns intact. And yet we rank them at 9 in the league.
And I think 3 starters in the secondary too return. So doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you put it on paper like that for them to be 9th.
Well, and then when you read the write-ups, when you've got a couple teams in there, depth at this spot and this spot and this spot could be a concern.
Yeah.
And then, this team's
unless you just look at Mississippi State and you go, they're not that talented. Yeah, they got a bunch of guys coming back, but they're just not that good. Then, okay, you can justify your number 9 ranking. But if your ranking is based on what's coming back in terms of experience and you give teams above them the benefit of the doubt, but then you get to Mississippi State and you say all this stuff's coming back, but they're the 9th best team in the SEC, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless, again, you just don't think they're very good.
What would this team be ranked if Charles Cross had decided to give it another go?
See, if their write-up would have been something like, I like the pieces, however, we got one look at Mississippi State without Charles Cross, and it was not a pretty look.
All right.
Then fair, absolutely fair. Protection.
Because to me, that's the concern for Mississippi State, right? It's the offensive line. It's
the
it's
absolute
a
biggest
offense.
concern.
A lot of quick passing game. But you got, even in a quick passing game where the ball comes out quickly, you got to protect your quarterback. How many times was he sacked last year? We looked that number up, and
I have to go. Yeah, it's not a ton.
Yeah, okay.
But when you had the best guy in the business protecting his blind side, that guy's gone now. Mm-hmm. So,
and the guy
I've said it before. I think State's better at
was not good.
Well, that's what I say. I think State's better at 4 offensive line spots this year because they return 3 starters, and they can't possibly be worse at right tackle. They just can't, unless they're going to put an actual turnstile there. So,
LSU at number 10. The Tigers have dealt with the fallout of their national title the last 2 years as a mass exodus of talent hit Baton Rouge hard. In steps Brian Kelly to try to steady the ship. The Tigers have a few options at quarterback, and whoever wins the job has the luxury of star receiver Keyshawn Butte to throw to. The run game and the defensive backfield are going to have to find some playmakers, though.
Yeah. And yet some people, when we go to Atlanta next week, are going to vote them 2nd or even 3rd in the West.
Shouldn't.
It's going to happen. Watch.
Who's going to be LSU's quarterback?
I'm leaning Miles Brennan at this point. I really am.
I kind of am, too.
The kid from Arizona State whose teammates hated him so much they celebrated when he hit the transfer portal? I mean,
it's not great. Not great, Mike.
South Carolina at 11. Spencer Rattler in. Offensive line, not great. They got to get better, although they get everybody back from a year ago. Got to be a little bit better defensively up front. Good secondary.
They were a really good story, but remember, they had to throw a walk-off touchdown pass to beat Vanderbilt last year. Yeah. Like, they were a fun story, and they played hard, but they were as bad as you thought they were roster-wise. They just played up because their coach is a hell of a motivator.
Auburn at 12. The Tigers have dealt with a lot of turmoil in the program. That's one way to put it, surrounding Coach Brian Harsin, and there's been a good amount of both player and staff turnover as a result. Texas A&M transfer Zach Calzada enters the picture at quarterback, and stud running back Tank Bigsby is back. Not much outside of that inspires confidence, other than perhaps the defensive line. They're going to be good on the defensive line. Auburn is. And Tank Bigsby is good. Their offensive line was not very good a year ago. I don't know that it's going to be a whole lot better this year. I don't understand if you're putting a lot of faith in Zach Calzada. Yes, I know he beat Alabama. I'm aware. He was the quarterback on the team that beat Alabama. He also was wildly inconsistent. Missouri at 13. You guys kind of just blew this off when I mentioned it in passing yesterday. That Drinkwitz is a game below 500. This is year 3. If they finish 13th in the SEC, Missouri goes 4-8. The Drinkwitz experiment starts to get a little less fun this offseason.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's true about every coach. In year 4, you need to be winning. So if he's not winning at the end of year 3, he'll go to year 4 on the hot seat. Fair enough.
Vanderbilt 14. Difficult schedule and a roster that can't compete in the league.
1-11.
I'm gonna try to get Clark Lee on. Actually, I would love to hear.
I'm sure he'll be fun to talk to. I hope he's wearing one of those awesome suits like he wore last year.